Story time of how I almost got arrested for selling my mom's underwear. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My mom is a total MILF. She used to be a video vixen back in the early 2000s. She even used to model and had a huge following. By the way, yes, I am her son. She's in her late 30s now, but she's still banging. So I basically found a way to monetize her hotness. The idea came to me one day when I was looking on the internet on how to make money online. Well, I found a bunch of articles about how people sell their foot pictures for money. This totally blew my mind, and I thought I can definitely do that with my mom's feet. So I started out by taking pictures of my mom's feet, but she wasn't having it, and she even got suspicious and asked me why I was doing that, so I basically had to stop that. Then I found an article about women selling their underwear. I knew this was what I needed to do. My mom had her fair share of underwear, so I thought she's not going to notice if a few go missing. What I'm about to say is really gross. Yes, I started stealing my mom's dirty underwear and selling them online. I sold the first pair for $50. After that, I started stealing my mom's underwear all the time. So I started stealing my mom's underwear to sell them online. So basically, I started keeping track of every single time my mom went to shower. After she was done showering, I would make sure to go and steal her underwear, her dirty underwear. Then I would take a peek into her laundry basket and grab whatever was there too. In just the first month of selling my mom's underwear, I had made $500. So I started selling even more underwear. And I started selling them for $75 a pop. And this is gross, but some guys wanted my mom's underwear after she went to the gym. Totally disgusting, but those are the ones that I could really sell for more money. One day my mom started getting really suspicious, asking me where I got the money to buy all the stuff that I was getting. And of course she started freaking out because she noticed a lot of her underwear started going missing. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Well, I didn't know this, but my mom had installed cameras because she was getting really nervous that she had a stalker. So I would go on about my day stealing my mom's underwear. Little did I know I was being filmed every second of the day. There's a knock on the door one day and it's the police. Part 3 is one day there's a knock on the door, and it's the police. They told me they had a warrant to search my house. I called my mom and she came home right away. That's when she broke it to me and told me that she had installed cameras and that she caught someone in the camera stealing her underwear. I couldn't believe they hadn't figured out it was me. Then she shows me the camera recordings in front of the police. And you can totally tell it's me in the video stealing my mom's underwear and putting it in Ziploc bags. And then I would just send it off to these nasty dudes. That's when the cops told me they were going to arrest me. My mom begged them not to and explained to them that it was probably just a phase I was going through. I basically stayed quiet the whole time because I was not about to incriminate myself. The cops leave and my mom turns to me and starts laughing. She confesses that she set up the whole thing because she knew the whole time it was me stealing her underwear. When I told her how much money I'd made, she said we should keep going with the business. So yeah, we're still in business and we're going strong. My mom's the story time about how I caught my husband with his mistress. My husband and I, or should I say my has-been of a husband, have been married for 9 years. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me. My husband and I also have 2 kids. When we met, I was totally out of his league and he knew it. We met through friends and he made sure to tell all of my friends how much he wanted to be with me. At the time, I was modeling to pay my way through school, so I had no time for a boyfriend. But he got pretty insistent. We went out on a few dates and he treated me really well, better than all the guys I had met at that time. He was a gentleman, always picked up the tab and treated me with respect. So when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes. 2 years later, he asked me to be his wife and I said yes. We were truly in love and best of all, we were best friends. I could talk to him about anything because he wasn't the jealous type. 4 months ago, he asked me for an open relationship. Of course, I said no, and this made him really angry. I got really suspicious and started checking his phone when he'd fall asleep. And that's when I found pictures of him with a girl at a hotel doing naughty things to each other. Part 2 is up. Once he fell asleep, I checked his phone and that's when I found pictures of him with another girl at a hotel doing naughty things to each other. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me on Instagram. I decided not to confront him. Instead, I started gathering evidence. I started following him around everywhere after I dropped the kids off at school. Mind you, I quit my job because he wanted me to stay at home with the kids. On the first day I started following him, he went to a hotel. Since I didn't want him to see me, I stayed in my car. 40 minutes, he exits the hotel with a woman. By the way, these were not cheap hotels. A few days later, I followed him to a strip club. I checked his bank account and he had withdrawn $2,000 that same day. That's when I really got upset. A few days later, I followed him to an apartment complex. That's when I see a woman opening the door and it was the same woman from the hotel. My stomach dropped. After about a week, I mustered up the courage to go talk to her. When she opened the door, she recognized me instantly. She tried to close the door in my face, but I pushed my way in. Then the coward ran to her room and locked herself in there. Part 3. My husband's mistress runs to her room and locks the door when she sees me. What a coward. I ran right after her and I told her that I wasn't going to hurt her and that I just wanted to talk. Of course, she asked me to leave, but I told her I wasn't going to move an inch until we talked. She comes out and we proceed to talk for 3 hours. She explained to me that she's an escort and that my husband pays for her apartment. She also told me that she wasn't in love with him and that she really only needed the money. This made me very happy. She also told me that aside from paying for her apartment, he gave her an allowance of $3,000 a month. Oh Oh yeah, and that she knew about me and the kids. That's when I lost it. I took my pepper spray out of my purse and sprayed her. Fortunately, it didn't directly hit her in the face, but it still got her. I went straight to a lawyer and presented all the evidence. When I got home, my husband asked me how I found out. I showed him all the evidence and he was stunned. He's begging me not to divorce him because he knows it's going to be really expensive. I kicked him out and he went to his mom's house. His mom was angry and she didn't let him stay there. How much did I ask for? Story time about how I found my boyfriend with his best friend. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 6 years. We met in cosmetology school. We both had a love for makeup and hair. While in school, we decided to partner up and open up our own little business. I started liking him from the moment we met, but he never made a move on me. And I was not used to that. So we were friends for a few months. One night, we went out with our friends and we got a little drunk and one thing led to another and I kissed him. He kissed me back and after that, we were inseparable. We even moved in together and we talked about marriage. But ultimately, he would never propose. I always asked him when we were going to get married and he just never had an answer. His best friend, let's call him Roger. Roger was a great guy and he always hung out with us. I liked him. They would hang out all the time and I never thought anything of it because they were best friends. One day Roger made a comment about my boyfriend being really good looking. I brushed it off, but a few days later I walk into our apartment and there they are on the couch doing stuff. I literally passed out. Part 2 is up. I walk in on my boyfriend and his male best friend on the couch doing things to each other. I actually fainted as soon as I saw it. All the blood rushed to my head and I passed out. And when I came to, they're both standing over me half naked. My boyfriend picked me up from the floor and put me on the couch. And Roger went to the kitchen to get me a drink. I felt dizzy and I couldn't even speak. I blurted out, "You're gay?" Then my boyfriend started crying. He said he didn't mean to hurt me and that he never wanted to waste my time. I asked him how long he'd known that he was gay. And he said for a few years. That meant I was wasting all of my youth on him. I could have had children. I could have been married already. I was so upset. Then guess what? My boyfriend says he's gonna go stay at Roger's place so that he can give me some space. Of course, I begged him not to leave because I knew that would be the end of us. I thought we could work through this. He packed his stuff and left. Part 3 is up. My boyfriend left me for his best friend, who's a guy. A few days passed by and I was super devastated. That's when my boyfriend comes and knocks on my door. Then he gave me the worst news of all. He told me he was gonna marry his best friend, Roger. He explained to me that they had been in love for a long time, but they never told each other anything. It was only until recently that they started hooking up. Looking back, it all makes sense. He and Roger would hang out all the time and I was never invited. Roger even got my boyfriend hired as a makeup artist at his job. They were constantly together. But at the same time, I had never seen my boyfriend so happy. He said he could finally be himself. This is when I realized that it was for the best. I stopped begging him to get back with me and I started dating other people. They even invited me to their wedding, which was beautiful. Now we have dinner a few times a month and I've got a new boyfriend. Life is crazy. Story time about how I got arrested for stalking my celebrity crush. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. When I was 15, I saw my celebrity crush for the first time in a movie. After that, I pretty much went to all of his movie premieres and events. I was able to take a picture with him and even got his signature. To say that I was obsessed was an understatement. Now, here's where the problem began. He started dating this woman, aka another celebrity, and I pretty much lost it after that. At the time, I was living with my mother and she couldn't help but notice the change in me. I started staying out pretty late, mostly because I was out in the city looking for him. I knew all of his hangout spots because the paparazzi always caught him there. So I basically would hang out everywhere he would. I followed him to his house, I followed him to the gym, and I followed him to the grocery store, pretty much everywhere. I decided to sign up to his gym, and I started talking to him, and he started talking to me, and he asked me out on a date. Part 2 is up. After stalking him for a while, my celebrity crush asked me out on a date. But he didn't know I was stalking him, of course. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. On the date, he pretty much only talked about himself. He told me he had just broken up with his ex, which I knew that. And I basically pretended not to know anything about him. There was lots of awkward silence and I just couldn't help but stare at him the whole time. That's when he asked for the check and paid for dinner. I was totally expecting him to ask me to go back to his place. Well, when he didn't, I was really disappointed. So I did the logical thing. I invited myself over. That's when he told me that he couldn't because he had to get up early. After that, I didn't hear back from him at all. So I decided to go to the gym where I knew he was going to be. But when I tried to say hello to him, he told me to stay away. Then he asked one of the gym employees to escort me out. And when I got home, the cops were waiting for me to arrest me. They showed me pictures of me stalking my celebrity crush. Part 3 is up. As soon as I got home, the cops were there and they arrested me. And they showed me pictures of me stalking my celebrity crush. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Since they had all this evidence and my face on the pictures, I couldn't say it wasn't me. They told me that after our date, my celebrity crush got a really bad feeling from me. So he decided to install cameras around his house and in his car. And well, that's when he caught me stalking him around his house at odd hours and following him in my car all the time. I was taken to court and told I had to go to therapy. Apparently, he felt bad for me though and didn't want to press charges. He did get a restraining order, so I definitely can't go near him. The good news is that I have another celebrity crush. Yay! Story time about how my blind date hid in my closet for 8 hours. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me on Instagram. So I'm in my late 20s and I've been looking for a boyfriend for years now. I started using dating apps, but none of that worked. Recently, my boyfriend started dating this really cool guy. He told me he had a really good friend and that he thought they should set me up. Of course, I had never met this guy before. I didn't know if he had social media. I didn't know anything about him. My sister and her boyfriend set up the whole thing. Oh yeah, and my sister told me that he was a doctor, he owned a boat, and loved golfing. So I got ready for the date and I showed up to the restaurant. Right away, he comes over and says hi to me. He knew that I would be wearing a pink shirt. We sat down to eat and we basically stayed at the restaurant for 3 hours just talking and having fun. We talked about a bunch of stuff and towards the end of the date, he gave me a kiss and asked me out again. I said yes. We said goodbye and I went home. Then I decided to go get ice cream and I went back home. I watched some TV, went to sleep. The next morning, I'm getting ready. I open my closet door and he jumps out. Part 2 is up. This guy had been hiding in my closet for 8 hours watching me sleep and change. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me on Instagram. Ran into my living room and I asked him what he was doing. He said that he really liked me and that he just wanted to spend some time with me and he didn't know how to tell me, so he decided to come over to my place when I went to the supermarket the night before. I asked him how he got in and he said he came in through a window. I looked at my window and it was wide open. Remember I said I went to the supermarket in part 1? That's when he decided to come into my apartment. By the way, at this point I had just finished showering and I was in my towel. My knees started shaking and I was so scared. I asked him why he hid in my closet for 8 hours. He said it wasn't a big deal and that he thought I wouldn't see him. Then he actually said that he was excited for our second date. He started walking toward me and I told him to stay away. But then he started getting really angry. So I decided to play it off and act like everything was cool just so that I could get out of my apartment safely. I stayed with him in my apartment for 2 hours. Then I pretended I wanted to go get breakfast together. But then he lunged at me and tried to kiss me. Part 3 is he lunges at me and tries to kiss me. I pushed him away, but then he tried again. I ran to the door, unlocked it, and ran to my neighbor's house. I could feel him right behind me the whole time. He was asking me to calm down while I was running away. Did he actually think I was going to be flattered that he was hiding in my closet for 8 hours while I slept? Luckily, my neighbor opened the door right away. He let me in, but my blind date tried to pretend that we were together and that we had just gotten into a fight. My neighbor knew better because he knew my situation. He locked the door and then we called the cops. It turns out he went to the same gym I did. My sister's boyfriend goes to the same gym. So he asked my sister's boyfriend to set us up, even though they actually didn't know each other. The cops looked for him but couldn't find him. I haven't seen him since.